Good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us. We'll wait a few more minutes. We have, I think, close to 50 people that signed up. So we'll wait to see if we get a few more that sign on before we get started. While you're waiting, make sure you're comfortable. Grab a cup of coffee, relax. We turn off anything that's going to distract you from this presentation. So if you have a cell phone or computers, we ask that you turn those off during our presentation. My name is Diane Smith. I'm a member of the marketing team here at RiverWoods, and happy November to you, and thank you for taking the time today to get to know a little bit about making this decision. So another little reminder that you are on mute. We welcome and love questions, so we encourage you to have a piece of paper and a pencil nearby to write down any questions that come to you during the presentation. The questions, the Q&A will be at the bottom of your screen. And if you're on a tablet or an iPad, that might be at another location. So just make sure you know where the place is to put your questions in. We are always open to any suggestions about topics that you'd like to hear from us. Please give us your feedback if you have some after this session. So we look forward to meeting you at some point. In the past, prior to COVID, we'd be doing this in person, which is the way we love to do our programs, but this is a safer way to do it now, and a little bit easier for you. You don't have to travel. You can sit comfortably in your home while we're presenting. So wait just a few more minutes. The numbers haven't changed, so and get started. You are in for a treat today. First of all, I want to say happy November to all of you. Grateful for the time you've taken to be with us today, and for your interest in Riverwoods. We know that there's lots of choices that you can make in deciding on what retirement community that you want to come to. So we thank you for giving us an opportunity to present our home to you. And we encourage you to ask questions, come and visit. We are here to help you navigate this process. So here we're looking at I am in the Exeter community, but RiverWoods has two other communities. Exeter was the original campus, which opened up over 27 years ago. And then we have Manchester, which is one of our newer communities that we acquired. And then Durham, we opened up just a year ago. So 3 campuses, all self-contained, all physically separate, but all part of the RiverWoods family group. So just a little bit before we get started, we know, again, going back, this is a big decision. And I've always, from the school of thought, that the more research you do, the better you'll be able to make the right decision. And in my over 14 years of being here, you will intuitively get a feeling for what feels right to you. So we encourage you to visit. We hope this presentation will inspire you to do that. A little bit about us. We were founded, as I mentioned, by over 27 years ago by 2 visionary women, Mariana Hatch, Rosemary Coffin, who had a vision of a new way to create community for seniors. We are a long-term care insurance product. We are accredited. We are a not-for-profit retirement community, providing all 3 levels of care for seniors. Today, we have 3 campuses here in Exeter, over 500 residents who enjoy diverse cultural, educational, recreational alternatives, quality health care, but most importantly, the freedom from daily home maintenance. And if there's one thing that I hear often is people say, you know, they're tired of shoveling snow, cooking meals, cleaning, all of that is taken care of you. Well, most importantly, having the security blanket of long-term care. So I'm going to introduce you now, turn it over to this is one of my favorite programs, our residents, our 4 residents who are going to speak to you about how they made the decisions. We're going to start with Andrea Williams, who is a resident here at the Woods campus. So take it away, Andrea.
Okay.
And please ask questions.
Okay, great. So I'll give you a brief introduction about how we found Riverwoods and then what it meant to us after we actually moved in. So my husband and I moved from Asheville, North Carolina, after a long stint in the DC area to Hampton, and we were living in Hampton. Now George has a daughter, lives in Exeter, and she was wheeling a stroller, her little girl in a stroller, around the Riverwoods property, which happens to be an exceptionally beautiful and safe property. There was a woman, a resident, outside gardening, and they stopped and had a little chat. And so Carrie, the daughter, says, you know, what is this place? And the resident just went on and on about how great it is to live here and it's so wonderful. Meanwhile, George and I were in our early to mid 70s. We had no idea, no thought, we didn't even know what a CCRC was. But Carrie told us about it and we thought, well, what the heck, we'll go and have a visit. And we just had a lovely visit with a wonderful lunch. They took us through the hallway. We went into one of the laundry, the community laundry room. And there was someone in there who said, you will be very happy here. Now that statement just stuck in my mind, but we were not ready. Meanwhile, we took advantage of the many programs they were offering. Mostly it was a wonderful lunch. And then we got educated about all of the aspects of CCRC living. Meanwhile, my husband, born in 1937, and we moved to Riverwoods in 2014, so he would have been 77. So in a few years before that, I started to notice some odd things like fearfulness, some mood disorders, lack of confidence in things that he was very capable and had been very capable of doing all of his life. And I thought it was just odd. His daughters were in the area and I ran this by them. No, Andrea, he's just getting old. Everybody has these problems when they get old. His driving became erratic. I became nervous about the driving. And then one day, this would have been in 2013, no, maybe early 2014. Anyway, we had come to one of these great programs here at Riverwoods. We were headed out to get from the Riverwoods campus to where we were living in Hampton is basically a straight line with a slight curve at the end. So it goes up and then curves a little bit. That's it. So George got to the intersection and he did not know which way to turn to get back to home. And I thought to myself, this is serious. We better really get serious about our living arrangement. We went back to Riverwoods and said, we're serious about this. What can we do? We worked with Mary Rulison, who was here previously. She worked us through the finances. We went to our financial advisor. He said, yes, you can afford it. He says, don't plan on any round the world cruises. That's not going to be in your future. But if you live modestly, you will be able to afford Riverwoods. So we put in our application thinking that and they told us that we would have maybe 2.5 to 3 years. Meanwhile, we got a call 3 weeks later. Now you have to know, you may have noticed this on one of the initial screens, that you have to come into Riverwoods as an independent. You could come in assisted living, but then you pay market rate, what you would pay anywhere. In order to come in as an independent person, you have to pass 2 tests, a simple physical test and a mental test. And George squeaked by the mental test, squeaked by. Meanwhile, we were still waiting. Now you have to wait from the time you put on your deposit, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Diane, you have to take the assessment no matter how long you wait within 90 days of moving in. I had my heart in my mouth. We had a few days to take care of it. If we had waited 6 more months, we wouldn't have gotten in because George would not have passed the cognitive test. So a year after we moved in, George was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia, which is one of the world's most horrible diseases. If you don't know anything about it, look it up. It's really terrible. It's a form of Parkinson's, but it's all cognitive, it's fast. He died in August. He died last August of 2020. Meanwhile, he went to the lodge in January of 2020. And if you remember, we got locked down in March. And George was becoming more and more difficult to manage. He went directly into skilled nursing, by the way, not assisted. He was beyond that in such a short time, went straight into skilled nursing. And he couldn't see his family. He couldn't see me. I couldn't visit. We were in complete lockdown to keep the healthcare area safe. And they allowed me to move down to the lodge. And I became a bona fide, legitimate, skilled nursing resident. Had my temperature taken and had the oxy thing on my finger twice a day, the whole 9 yards, 3 meals a day, which is quite nice. It was wonderful. Honestly, I was having a pretty good time, except for George being so sick. I was kind of having a good time. Lots of people around, good meals. One very interesting thing was my room happened to be right around the corner from George's room. And the staff, now most of the people in skilled nursing either, are beyond the pale cognitively, or they're hard of hearing. I was not. My hearing happens to be very good. The nurses and the staff don't make any accommodation on their voice because no one can usually hear them, but I could hear them. So I could hear how they were dealing with George right around the corner. Unfailingly kind, patient, believe me, look up LBD. You need a lot of patience to deal with these people. They were absolutely wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And they were wonderful up until the very end. And I just cannot say enough about RiverWoods and the care and the concern that we both received, and still to this day. So that's my part.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank
Sure.
you. So I'm going to turn it over to the staffers, Bonnie and Bill, and let you share why you made the leap.
Well, we're glad we're here, that's for sure. It's been a wandering journey for us, as well as Andrea described, although it took a different form, of course. We didn't have the advantage of coming to hear about CCRCs and lovely lunches, though I know those exist and have experienced them. We both have subsequently before the pandemic set in. But we made our journey from Wisconsin, from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we'd lived there for about 40 years. We had raised our children there, and one of them was still is in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and our son is on the East Coast in Brooklyn, New York. We knew we had a couple of criteria that were we were vaguely aware of. One of them was we thought we wanted to be on the East Coast, because in the Midwest, we had not seen a lot of our family in those 40 years. And I have a brother in Maine, in coastal Maine, a sister in coastal Maine. In fact, we were there this past weekend. I have another sister in Connecticut. The place we go in the summer is in Pennsylvania on the I-95 corridor, and lots of cousins, and Bill's sister in Pennsylvania in Chambersburg, which is pretty close to the eastern edge of the state. So we were hoping that we would get to see those people often. So that was one criteria, being on the East Coast, seeing family, being able to travel and see friends. Then we started looking around for different states and different financial arrangements. What would be good for our investments? What would be livable and even give us some advantages? So I had had the advantage of being on the Presbyterian Homes and Services Board in Wisconsin, Minneapolis area, and had had a lot of buildup, if you will, or education as a board member on those boards, how to assess situations. Not that I was ace at it, but I certainly had been exposed to a lot. We also had some parents in CCRCs. Bill's parents both had enjoyed a time, or Bill's aunt and father had enjoyed a time in a Mennonite home in Pennsylvania. And my dad was in a skilled nursing area and assisted living area for a time in Bloomfield, Connecticut. So with those as our background, we also went to see Aunt Bets, my aunt. Go from there, Bill.
Okay. By the way, Diane, your image is still big, and I think it's, for some reason, some sound is being picked up on your microphone. If you mute yourself, I think that the screens will change.
Go ahead.
I
Keep
will.
going.
I'll get there. Maybe Kaylee has to do it. Okay. We were fortunate to have seen lots of places, both because of Bonnie's experience, but also her relatives were kind enough to get themselves ensconced in several different places. So we actually got to see them as visitors.
And stay in them.
After we had learned about Riverwoods and actually put down a deposit, we ended up taking a trip to visit Bonnie's aunt in North Carolina at a place called Deerfield, which is related to the Episcopalians. Deerfield is a lovely big place. It's related to some others, but not, I think, controlled. In any case, we learned several interesting things about different ways of, theirs is more high rise than Exeter, it's 5 stories instead of 2 or 3. Just a very different look and feel, but built into hills, not unlike this. In any case, there was an opportunity to visit with the marketing marketing vice president of the place while we were there. And Kathy was kind enough to make time in our limited schedule. And she said, well, you must be looking at other places, after we'd been talking for a while. And I said, yes. And she said, well, what are you looking at? And I said, well, among other things, Riverwoods in New Hampshire. And she said, oh, Riverwoods. That's where I started my career. That's my standard for how you do this business. And much as we like Deerfield, that was kind of that put us over the top. So it took a while of being on the waiting list, but turned out to be not as long as we thought it might be. And that gave us time to unwrap some real estate investments that we had.
That was in
2015.
2015, right.
Yeah. And we ended up getting the word and moving in about a 6-week turnaround, which was good fun.
That was as much of a confusing period as you might think it would be. But you know, the welcome here was absolutely fantastic. Other places we'd moved to, and we'd moved a lot, certainly in the early part of our marriage, but more recently had the experience of moving from a high rise in Milwaukee into a sort of a townhouse condo thing. And I was aware when we moved into that condo that, gosh, there was an awful lot of work to do to get the dryer set up and the washing machine and the outside and the inside, to Diane's point about people having to care for homes. But when we moved here to Riverwoods, there were people waiting for us, and the apartment was waiting for us. The colors were already on the wall that we wanted. The dryer and the washing machine were hooked up, so was the ice machine and the fridge. The whole thing was wonderful. And there were people who gave me the feeling that, oh, we've been waiting for you, to find out why you wanted a purple wall on the end of your apartment, and to find out who you are and what does Milwaukee have to offer, which we were too happy to tell them about. We loved it there, but we love it here. And we instantly felt this sense of community, of diverse people with diverse experiences, yet all both glad to be here and wanting to be part of a new community. So I think very much both Bill and I were interested in starting a new adventure, coming here with people who also had started a new adventure. And that is our second criteria, the community feeling. I would say that's tops. You've gotten involved in a number of things.
I have, and
So have I.
and enjoyed it very much.
Yep.
But one of the differences that others of you may encounter in this move for us was that it's the first move that we've made in our married lives in which I wasn't going to another job. And so I was very much involved in the move.
Yeah.
And
That was good.
I have great respect for what Bonnie accomplished in all the other ones we made.
It was also important to us that this is a 501c3. And I believe in the mission, not only of Riverwoods, but in the ongoing creating a culture here that is receptive, open, and as I said before, diverse, interesting. I've gotten involved in a committee with Andrea Williams, whom you've met already. And together we are working on lifestyle matters, which includes all kinds of interesting things. And we can tell you about that when you get here. We'd love to meet you. Whatever she said.
You're still on mute, Diane.
Okay, back. Thank you both very much.
You're welcome.
Very much. Beautifully spoken and heartfelt, all of you so far. And now Ron, we'll finish up with Ron and Joshua. You'll see Joshua at some point during his little presentation. So Ron lives here at the Woods campus. So it's all yours, Ron.
Thank you. I spent my life in the military. Thus, I moved from place to place. We moved to Germany 2 times. I moved to Korea once. I moved from Massachusetts to California, constantly moving. When we retired, we decided to live in Florida and in Massachusetts. We started in Florida, which was disastrous because of the humidity. And after 44 years of marriage, we decided to break up. And so we split. We went to Bridgeton, and Bridgeton was a lovely place. Bridgeton is a community which is surrounded by lakes. There are 12 lakes in the Bridgeton area. And it's 30 miles from the ocean, from Portland, 30 miles from North Conway. It's a lovely area, the mountains. But in a sense, I was kind of lonely. And Bridgeton is, especially in the winter time, when you're surrounded by snow, it's a devastating place. But I also learned something. I learned to be happy in life. You need to, 1, exercise, 2, sleep well, and 3, to socialize. as an introvert, as a born introvert, I got scored highly in 2 of those. I failed on the sociability aspect. It was so bad that when the winter time, I was so yearned for human contact, I would go to the store and fight someone to go to the store to have human contact. Even Joshua, who was my companion, Joshua, here. Joshua, who was my companion. Come on, Joshua. Come on. He was a dog. He is a lovely dog, and he was my companion. But he did not solve the problem of loneliness, thus I decided to go into the community. What about Joshua? And I looked at 3 things. I interviewed dozens of communities. I interviewed a community in Florida, community in Massachusetts, community in Maine, and community in New Hampshire, all the place. But I decided on 3 criteria. One was if I went to the community, happy to be safe for the time I got there to the time I died. Secondly, a community had to be nonprofit. And thirdly, they had to be a member of CARF. Only Piper Shores in Maine was a member of CARF, and RiverWoods was one of the few communities in New Hampshire who was just a member of CARF. I visited both Piper Shores and RiverWoods extensively. They're both neat communities. And the Piper Shores was kind of more formal, and I think the RiverWoods was more informal and cordial. And I was drawn to the informality of RiverWoods. The people were gracious and hospitable, and also RiverWoods was surrounded by more than 5 miles of trails, which is really worth walking. I was cut off from my family. I have a daughter in Virginia and 2 sons in Kentucky and in Missouri, but RiverWoods was a place I could feel at home, and was more cordial than Piper Shores. On June 8th, 2020, I was involved in RiverWoods. It was the wrong time. It was a devastating time. It was a time of quarantine. Naturally, I was put in 2-week quarantine. I was a prisoner in the apartment, except I could walk the dog. That's the only break I had. But after 2 weeks, I was exposed to the wonder of RiverWoods. I really enjoyed it very much. The gym, the pool, the wood shop, the classes, it's phenomenal what is available here. I learned something though before I got here. I visited with someone at lunch who said the most important word in going to RiverWoods is no. And I thought that was a peculiar word, but it is. There are so many possibilities that it's available to you. You have to say no to preserve your sanity. That's why I came here. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you all. Wonderful, wonderful presentations. And, you know, if the one thing that you heard from each one of these people is the preliminary work that they did before making a decision, and intuitively they followed their hearts. They made a decision based on what felt right. So particularly Ron came as a single man and had experienced the life of isolation and not being social, and realized that was very important. And so the welcomeness that he felt when he came here made it feel right for him. So thank you all for sharing your wonderful stories and why you made the leap. We welcome now at this time your questions. Hope you have some. I've got one. Oh, there's a question for you, Andrea. What happened after your husband died? Were you able to move back to your independent apartment right away?
There.
You're on
Okay,
mute.
can you
Yep.
hear me? Can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yes.
Toward the end of the lockdown period, this would have been June, July, George had not been able to see his children for months and months and months. It just so happened that two of his daughters are registered nurses. One of them is even an ICU nurse. So with great trepidation, believe me, it weighed heavily either way. Do I keep him here at Riverwoods where I know he's being safe and extremely well cared for? Do I allow him to leave and go to live with one of his daughters? And I decided he was close to the end. There was no doubt about that. Losing function every day. He needed to see his family more than he needed the level of care that he was getting here. So I allowed him to leave, and he went to Portsmouth, not far, and stayed with his daughter. And he actually, because the other daughter, the ICU nurse, actually took a leave of absence from her job. So the two daughters were able to cover 24 hours a day of skilled nursing. And he did get to see his family, and he did get to see the new puppy, and he was very happy about that. But I do have to interject one thing here that's really so important. You never know what life is going to throw at you from one minute to the next. We had a person very and youngish, in obviously very good health, had a stroke. I mean, you walk around the corner and you have a stroke. You don't know. So my takeaway from this whole thing is, you'll never know you were one day too late until you're one day too late. So don't wait, because this is not just a safe place. It is a wonderful place to live. I'm very happy right now.
Great, great. Thank you, Andrea. So I have a question from Susan Chase, thanking everyone for sharing your experiences. And so maybe you can each kind of share something about this. She asked, can you tell us what was the most difficult about making the decision to transition to Riverwoods? Were there any surprises? Anyone want to speak to that one? Good or bad? Okay, Bonnie. Oh, and
Okay.
Ron, yeah.
Well, I will quickly start and just say one of the things that started happening for Bill and me in Wisconsin was our friends started moving to be near their children. And so, oh my goodness, if I want to see Rod and Glenda, I have to go to Colorado. And oh, if I want to see so-and-so, they've gone to the West Coast to be near their kids. So that pushed us in a different way. We began thinking, oh, maybe we should think about how do we get a new adventure into our lives, because we're not done yet. Though I totally agree with Andrea saying you don't know what's around the corner, because shortly after we got here, I fell, broke my hip, and ended up in skilled nursing eventually after I went to the hospital and had surgery, came back to Riverwoods. And we were saying, well, we're just testing the whole system to see how well it works. It works very well. That's what I have to say about that. And Andrea is right. In order to have a life, you have to choose a life. That's what I have to say.
Okay.
And Ron, you're on.
Ron, what are your thoughts on that question?
What was the most difficult for me? It was, I have 3 adult children with families, one in Virginia, one in Kentucky, and one in Missouri. There's a long ways away. Every year I take a month to visit them. The distance between my children and me, it was a devastating experience. But I do appreciate the companionship of Riverwoods.
Great, great, great. Thank you. Let's see, what kinds of things are offered by our fitness program? Is it easy to stay active?
I've got to answer that.
Yeah, yeah.
COVID has thrown a bit of a monkey wrench into our exercise program because some of the contracted people, of course, could not come onto campus. But I'll tell you what I do and what I love about it, first of all, right off the bat, is 5 minutes away. No getting into the car, no driving 40 minutes to the gym, 40 minutes back. It is literally less than 5 minutes from my apartment to the pool, to the exercise room. So I do the strength and balance classes. I do Zumba. I did Tai Chi, and they're looking for my Tai Chi instructor retired. They're looking for a new Tai Chi person. And then I do the pool. And they had these urban poling, these like Nordic walking sticks, the poles. So they had fitness department had a workshop on the poles. And I took the workshop, loved it, bought the poles. So now when it's decent, when it's not raining, I use the poles and I do several circuits around the campus. I can do 2 circuits in half an hour. It's about 15
Wow.
minutes a circuit.
That's great.
So that's my program.
That's great. Well, I see Ron walking his dog every day. So do you get in the trails, Ron?
Yes, I'm addicted to the trails. I use it as an excuse that Josh insists on being walked, but I try to walk 4 or 5 miles a day, which is really wonderful. Especially in the spring and fall.
They're lovely, lovely. In addition, I'll just interject here. Our fitness director is very forward thinking. In addition to what we have, the trails and the pool and the fitness center, we also have a group that goes off cycling. We have a bike share program, which is wonderful. We've had a hiking group, and a lot of these are resident initiatives. We went up to Gunstock with a group of people. We also have a group of kayakers. So, and then a very active gardening group, which is also another wonderful way to stay fit. So if you're not thrilled about getting on the treadmill inside, there's lots of opportunities to be outside. In addition, we have people that cross-country ski and snowshoe. So I think our fitness programs, as a result of Bonnie and Andrea and her team of people who are working on lifestyle matters, that has evolved tremendously in my 14 years of being here. It's very exciting to see all the different things that are happening. And they don't only work on the physical components of wellness, they talk about, mind, body, and spirit. So we integrate meditation programs, and lots of TED Talks around emotional wellness. So it's not just a one-way street. We offer, a holistic approach to well-being here at RiverWoods. How old are each of the participants, and what is the average age of the people enter RiverWoods? Now, I'm going to allow the residents to decide if they're going to disclose their age, but I can tell you that the average, whoops, I just lost everyone. The average age coming in, it's changed. We have people from 65 all the way up to 101 who are living independently. The average age coming in is anywhere between 75 and 80. People here are ageless to me. So if it's not very important, Molly, to know everyone on the screen's ages, I think we'll hold off on that answer and just say we are all young at heart. Let's see, what are the current wait times for various location, apartment, and cottage options? Right now, we're saying the average wait time is between 3 to 5 years here at the Woods campus. Could be a little bit longer for a 2-bedroom. And that's very fluid. It changes. Our wait list is we've got, over 300 people on our wait list for 40 different floor plans for all different time frames. So if you're curious and want to take a peek, we encourage you to come and visit. If you're fully vaccinated, you can come and visit now. All of us have been vaccinated and we've all had our booster shot. So right now we're enforcing using masks because we've had a couple of asymptomatic cases. So we are using masks, but if you are vaccinated, we welcome you to come and visit us.
Could I add something to that, Diane?
I'm sorry?
Could I add something to that?
Sure, you can.
One of the interesting possibilities, should you, and I hope you will, decide that Riverwoods is the place you want to be, is to go ahead and put your down payment down, your holding fee or whatever we want to call it. And you can tell Riverwoods, don't call me until I tell you I'm ready. And there are a lot of reasons for doing that. In our case, it was because we had real estate that we needed to move. And as with other things, if you have gotten into a queue, Riverwoods will, unless you tell them otherwise, will come say, we've got something that meets the parameters that you set. And you can say no, but you can only say no 2 times without going to the back of the queue. However, you can say, don't call me till I'm ready. Now, we did that.
Timing worked well.
And when we were at the point that we knew we were going to be within about 6 months of doing the real estate thing as a final, we said, okay, Riverwoods, you can call us in X. And it was a couple or 3 months out. Well, they ended up calling sooner than that. But that was okay because there was an opportunity. And that's the piece that you don't expect, but it can happen. And there isn't any way to predict really accurately. It's true, Riverwoods is a pretty good sized community. So there is some ability to forecast when things are going to become available, but there's no certainty in that, obviously. And so the more leeway you can give, particularly by putting in your down payment and saying, don't call me till I tell you I'm ready, you keep moving up the queue when you do that. And so when you say I'm ready, it could be really quick. For us, it was about 6 weeks. And that worked out really well.
Thank you, Bill, for offering that. That brings up a great point, which is, again, and Andrea mentioned it, we never know what life is what's gonna happen in our lives. Although as we get older, things change a little and we have to recognize that and think about what the options are for those changes. And you can sit down and write down, you can move in with family, wait and go to an assisted living, or come to a vibrant community where people remain active and connected. And the risk of coming and getting a good feeling and joining the wait list is $500. If you decide not to come, you lose $500. If you decide to come, you've got a place in the queue, so that when you are ready, we have people on our wait list that are not ready for 10 years, but they know this is where they want to come. So another point around this, and I remember several years ago when I first came here, there was a gentleman whose children live in California. And so he did a huge spreadsheet, where am I going to go? My children are in California. They lived in New Hampshire. They were very conflicted about where to go. And he researched, he was a CFO at a hospital, several hospitals, and he did researched 20 different communities. I mean, it was really very thorough, unusual approach. But anyway, at the end of the day, he got on our wait list. And I remember saying to him, John, what made you decide us of all the research that you've done? And his answer was very simple. And he said, I had a feeling. So I use that expression all the time because when I meet with people, and I met with a couple yesterday who had gone to like 13 different communities, and they came back again because they said, I didn't have the same feeling anywhere else I went. So I'm not sharing this as a salesperson. I'm just sharing this from my heart, and from what I've heard is that encourage you to come and visit. You might not get that feeling, but that's good. If you do, great. And if you don't, then you understand that this isn't the place for you. And there are other places to choose. We all have choices in life. So, but by doing the research and coming here and doing everything else, we always say, once you've looked at one, you've looked at one, because they're all a little different. So do your research. And if you're inclined, we welcome you to come and visit and see if you get that, you too get that feeling. And that'll help you navigate. You know, it's not a decision that happens tomorrow. It's a decision that happens over time. But if the feeling comes up and you fall in love with us and you want to marry us, then we encourage you to jump in and join our wait list. So let me see if I got all the questions. I think there's a few more that came up. Only counts if you go to the potential apartment regarding two only knows, right? So so I think Carol's referring to the offers. So if we call you and you say no on the phone, that's not considered an offer. If you come and look at an apartment at the third time, that's when you would go to the bottom of the list. So it's really physically coming and looking and saying no. And so, and it usually at that point, as I think Bonnie or Bill or someone said, we'll call you when we're ready. And that's often a good way to approach this. What are the preferred most local hospital facilities and what are the impressions of the overall quality? Well, we had a resident who was a former doctor in Concord, Massachusetts, and provided for us with a healthcare resources booklet, which we have, which we can mail to you. But the closest hospital is Exeter Hospital, which is a nonprofit, which is a great little hospital. I've had surgery there, had no complaints. Many residents have had experiences there, and overall, it's a very good experience. I would do your research. Again, there's a piece of this process that you need to do on your own. Researching doctors, researching hospitals, researching the Seacoast area. If you're not local, what does the Seacoast offer that you want to do in your next chapter? We don't want you to limit your life to this community only. If you love art, if you love music, Google Seacoast online and see what it offers. Do the same thing with hospitals. You're not forced to go to Exeter Hospital, but you can go to any of the Boston hospitals. You can go to Dartmouth. You can go to any one of them. But if there's an emergency, we're going to have you go to Exeter Hospital first, and then you can choose. We have wonderful nurse practitioners in all three campuses who navigate your wellness, I will say. If you have anything on a given day, you just don't feel good, or you forget which pill to take at any day, you can pop up there. They can guide you and they can help navigate. So you're fully supported around healthcare. But once again, we don't want to tell you what to do. You're coming here independently. We want you to make those choices. We want you to do the research so that you make the decision that feels right for you. We're here to support, but not dictate, is I guess the best way I would say that.
That's a really good point, Diane, to speak about independent living as opposed to other ways of being. That it's true for healthcare. It's true for virtually all other kinds of support in the short term, which is to say, you come here with a PC and a very old smartphone and you want a new phone. There's nobody here who's going to, other than friends and people you meet, who's going to tell you what they recommend about a smartphone. You're still independent. You might as it's just like if you were in your own house. We're not going to tell you, here's the computer you have to use, here's the phone you have to use. You have to figure that out. So there's plenty of stuff to remain engaged with.
Yes.
Yeah. We want you to stay independent, and part of that is making decisions that are best for you, because we're all different. You know, if you sat down with 500 residents, they'd all have a different opinion in many cases about something. So the message there is do your diligence and know that you are very independent when you come here. And that's a good thing. That's the way you want to come here. So it looks like we don't have any more questions. So I want to thank, you know, our resident participants for taking the time to share their stories, you know, their personal stories. It's so much appreciated, you know, so much appreciated from all of us. And I can never hear them enough. It reminds me the importance of my job. We in marketing do something very purposeful. We guide you in helping you to navigate your next chapter. It's a huge decision. So we're here to support that, navigate it, answer questions in any way that we can. We encourage you to come and visit if that works with your schedules. Again, if you're vaccinated, we are welcoming visitors. So email us, get in touch with us, call us. Wishing you all, here we are in November, a wonderful holiday season. Grateful for your attention to us and for taking the time. So be safe and have a good rest of this year. And we hope to see you.